That's right. That's right, Mayor. And the stock market was pounded for a second day in a row Friday, shortly after China announced retaliatory tariffs.
And where is it today?
The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped over 2,000 points, or 4.98% on Friday. That's the biggest decline since June 2020. Of course, that's
so
the beginning of the pandemic.
38,000 now.
That's right.
That's 38,500.
The S&P 500 nosedived 5.4%. That's also the biggest decline since June 2020.
Just the Dow Jones. Where is it right now?
The Dow Jones right now.
That was at 40,500 yesterday. Right now, it's at 38,514. Perfect. I had that figured out just right. So it's a drop just about the same as it was yesterday. And if you remember when we had our good friend on, Johnny Tobacco, he said he thinks the market's gonna go down to something like 36, 35, and then stabilize. And that what you're looking at is not just the effect of the tariff, which may be the proximate cause, but then about 10 others, or let's not exaggerate, about 5 others that are, if not of equal importance, pretty close to equal importance. The fact that we now have a budget that's a couple of $1 trillion more than it was just 4 years ago. That much of the spending was useless spending. And even when it wasn't useless, some would consider it having been positively damaging. It was spending maybe $1 trillion or more on creating more dependency in the United States. Even though jobs have theoretically come back, most of those jobs, if not all, were just jobs that existed before the pandemic. What has increased even more than jobs are the people that are out of the job market, people who don't work anymore. And America is losing every day skills. It's losing educated people because our educational system is destroyed, and it is without any doubt training larger and larger numbers of people to be dependent. In other words, we're becoming more and more of a dependency society. The president is attempting the biggest shift in our economy since the New Deal, because frankly, if it doesn't happen now, we will continue to be more and more of the socialist country that we've become. By every yardstick we can imagine, we are now as socialist as countries who call themselves socialist and even communist in terms of our economy. The government controls, in its own way, a little different than maybe some communist country, too much of our economy. We've become exactly what our founding fathers created us not to become, a top-down government with power constantly being taken away from the government closest to the people, giving it to the government as far away from the people as you possibly can get. And then really, if you want to be brutally honest, taken away from the people. It's a government of the bureaucrats, for the bureaucrats, and run by the elite. So people don't count in that equation. Now, all of this is extraordinarily healthy for what ails us. It's the only thing that can be done. It's the only thing that can be done in light of the crisis that we're in. The first thing that is happening, and we don't know the percentages yet, they'll shake out over the next month, but the best thing for the world economy is to go along with the U.S. change in globalism, so that instead of having one global economy, we have room for numerous and varied economies, emphasizing different things, specializing in different things, and being able to sustain itself. And therefore, like a single individual, you can't help others until you can sustain yourself. So if you're the country of, let's pick one. let's pick Guatemala. If you can't sustain yourself, Guatemala, you can't contribute to any other country. You can't help any other country. Or it may even get worse. You become a drain on other countries. You become a reason why they can't grow. The same thing in society. If you can't take care of yourself, well, let's make it even more dramatic and worse, which is you don't want to take care of yourself. Then somebody else has to take care of you, and you're a drain on them. That's of course the core vice with communism and socialism that always makes it break apart when that is recognized. There is a article in the Wall Street Journal saying the Trump tariff message to world: resistance is futile. Make a deal. Now, why is resistance futile? Resistance is futile because there is no economy that compares to ours. And you may want to put, I mean, even if you put the EU all together, they don't compare to ours. And even if they did in numbers, they're not as organized as we are. With all of our divisions, and we're still one government, one country, they're 40 or so. And they may try to act like one, but they never can. Plus, they have some real horrible basket cases that are dragging them down. So you take the EU out of there as an economy that could challenge ours. China, even on its best numbers, is half ours, and on its real numbers, probably a third. Russia is not even a competitor, and after that, there's nothing that comes close. So when we stretch our arms, we touch the entire world, and it's also because of our. It's the other effect of having the biggest market in the world. Yes, we have the biggest trade deficits, but yes, we support more of the world than any other country. So as we stop doing that, we may suffer to some extent short term. We may gain a great deal long term. They will suffer both short term and dramatically long term. The world needs America more than America needs the world. It's close. We can help each other. It's far better if we cooperate. It's far better if they make a deal. But the loser in the long run is going to be the weaker economy. You take United States and Canada. Canada is much more dependent on us than we are on Canada. We get a certain amount of our energy from Canada, a good deal, actually. We pay a lot for it. We could replace that energy. We could replace it elsewhere, or we could replace it right in the United States. We are their biggest customer. Maybe they can replace us. Maybe they can't. But they can't really replace us. Where are they going to find a country as rich as ours? I mean, here you are, a business, and you have the richest people in the world that make up 70% of your business. Now, the richest people in the world, that 70%, pull out and say, we're not going to do business with you. Screw you. And you replace it with 70%, another 70%. What direction is that going in? Your business gets weaker. And if you can manage a transition, you survive. If not, you don't. And that's why you see Canada now. And Mexico has handled it well. Mexico has at every step negotiated. And the Mexican-United States trade relationship is improving. But even more importantly, the other reasons for the tariff are being handled by Mexico. And that is helping us cut down on fentanyl, or cutting it down, not just helping us. Helping us locate the cartels that we have determined are terrorist groups so we can wipe them out and get rid of them. And making certain that people don't come in illegally at the border. That's been a monumental success. And the tariffs played a great role in getting President Sheinbaum's cooperation there. There's no question that so far, except for the momentary problem with the market, this has been all positive. The president, off the cuff, used the number 7 trillion put into our economy since he's come into office. I haven't counted it, with pen and paper. It seems to me that's close to right. When you consider that when a country like the largest and most sophisticated chip maker in the world relocates a large part of its business from Taiwan to the United States, and the price tag they put on it is $1 trillion to start with, that becomes $3 trillion in a very short period of time. It's like Hyundai, who switched some time ago to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They can make just a few cars there. They now make, Mercedes-Benz switched to Tuscaloosa. They now make 2 lines of cars just there. And now they're about to expand it even more to do as much as they can to escape the tariff. The effect of business investment and its effect on the economy is most often underestimated. The damaging effect in terms of what you take in from the government to lowered taxes is almost always misstated in the other direction, because they never take account of the business activity that the lower taxes creates. So it looks like all out, nothing in. That's what's happening here. They're doing an all out tariff. Okay, now what did we get back? So how do you count on the other side of the ledger, Hyundai putting factories in the United States? How do you count Rolls-Royce, BMW putting factories in the United States? Where do you put that? On what side of the ledger do you put that? Also, the tariffs haven't all gone into effect yet. Let's see if we can take a look at the schedule. The so-called reciprocal tariffs are going to go into effect on April 9. Well, I think today's April 4th. But if you don't tell the market that, because they'll go crazy on the 9th again when they actually go into effect. But they're not actually in effect yet. So you can see the psychology of all of this. Probably the most rigid tariff is the automobile tariff. It's 25% on all automobiles and automobile parts. And I think that's in effect already. And that is in order to bring an industry back to the United States, an entire industry. So that's a big slice and a big part of it. And it has some parts to it that I do think have to be adjusted. And we pointed out to you using the example of companies that make cars in the United States. So you would say, well, they're not going to have to pay the tariff because the car comes from Tuscaloosa, Alabama to Chicago, or from Arizona to Boston. Yeah, they're going to have to pay the tariff if any of those parts in the car come from Germany or England. Now, I don't know if there is, and I've been trying to find out, and I can't. And maybe they haven't decided yet, which is what I think. I don't know what allocation you're going to make for that. You really have to, don't you? Because you want to encourage the car manufacturers to come to the United States completely. But you also don't want to discourage them for putting part of their business in the United States when they're keeping part of their business in their own country. That's also half as helpful, right? And then usually, given the fact that doing business in the United States usually is a positive thing and it grows, all of it has so far, that will eventually, over a period of time, probably result in a lot of the car parts being manufactured here, particularly if there's an economic advantage to it. But you don't want to say to Mercedes-Benz, which probably is one of the biggest manufacturing here, that if you bring an entire car in from Germany 25%. But if you send a car from Tuscaloosa to the same dealer built in Tuscaloosa, 25%, because half the parts, the engine, the whatever, come from Germany or Ireland or somewhere else. Maybe, you want to say 12.5%. So when you look at the tariff schedules, almost all of them have flexibility written in them, and you can see it. This one, I haven't seen it. Now, I could have missed it. I may not be looking at the whole tariff. They may have already anticipated this. This is also something that I am quite confident. If they haven't anticipated and they do focus on it, they will adjust accordingly, and it'll be a big plus when they do that. It'll mean that companies that can't move completely will move as much as they can. The whole purpose here is to recreate America as the most vital industrial nation in the world. Now, just big picture, we don't win a war unless we are. That's how we won the Second World War. That's how we came to the aid of Russia and all the other nations. Russia likes to think it won the war because it had more losses. I don't know how you win a war by having the most losses. Usually, if you do win a war and you have the most losses, you barely won it. Russia would like us to consider what would happen if there wasn't a Western Front. I'd like you to consider what would have happened if there wasn't a Normandy. Who would have done Normandy? Russia? Isn't the reason Russia, after getting destroyed as much as they did by the Nazis, were able to turn the tide when America entered the war? And you want proof of that, you look at the Battle of the Bulge, when Hitler took half his troops out of Russia in order to fight the Battle of the Bulge. Had he not done that, would he have taken and kept Moscow? Russia owes us a great debt of gratitude for entering a war we had no part of. They had a big part of it since they originally were allies of Hitler. You'd imagine there'd be quite a bit of animosity between them when they had been allies, and then Hitler turned on them. We never were allies of Hitler. The war was on their continent, not ours. And there's no doubt they couldn't have won it without us. So Russia, who seems to want to get a great deal of congratulations for their great contribution to the war, which is basically losing people. Yeah, okay. But how about ours being the greater? Particularly if you calculate the enormous number of troops taken out of the Russian front. So, I mean, they have done a sort of an estimate of how much it's going to hit every household, and they say it's going to be $3,800. I don't know how accurate that is. I probably can predict that it's not accurate. It may be higher. It may be lower. I'm almost certain it's not completely accurate. The formula, how was the formula done? If you remember, this here, the formula ends up with tariffs, with reciprocal tariffs. But if we look for a moment at the board, we'll see that the reciprocal tariffs, I don't know if you can you do a close-up on that, Ted? You can see the reciprocal tariffs are all follow a formula that basically has it at 2-to-1. You take the top one, 67%. We are now going to put our tariff at 34%. Or we go to one near the bottom, Sri Lanka, 88%, right? Or let's take Malaysia. That's in the chart. Or no, it's not. Indonesia is in the chart. Indonesia has a 64% tariff on us. We are going to impose a 32% tariff on them. Now, this formula was apparently worked out by the Council of Economic Advisors led by Stephen Mirren. And the formula does turn out to be about half, but it isn't quite half. And some of the smaller calculations in it are very different for different countries. So apparently it was a very, very well planned, very well thought out formula. And I had thought up until this happened that the reciprocal tariff was going to be, number for number. If you put a 67% tariff on us, we'll put a 67% tariff on you. But instead, we're only putting half that tariff on China. So there's a lot of room to go in increasing these tariffs. There's also many things that can be negotiated with them. The whole idea of China letting go of the Panama Canal and letting go of TikTok, that the president has made clear. I mean, we can talk about a lot of ways to accomplish that, short of military action, and one of them is tariffs. Just think of what we've done in Mexico. Just think of what we've done with Mexico with regard to tariffs, right? You don't even see Mexico on here because we haven't had to do a reciprocal tariff with Mexico. We have a completely cooperative relationship with them. So far, we're in conflict with Canada, mostly rhetorical. There's been a great deal of adjustment back and forth on our tariffs between the United States and Canada. You should know that as we come into this, America consumes, I want you to just think of this number now, $1 trillion more than we export. Now, that really isn't sustainable for us. It makes us the most powerful economic power in the world. There is no other country supporting the world anywhere near the level at which we're doing it. I mean, China isn't even a factor, which means if to the extent we pull our market away, you're not going to find a substitute. Any intelligent economist in any part of the world knows that, for all the bluffing that's going on. So there are people now sort of against the tariff, but I don't know if they understand the concept of the tariff. A survey by American Compass found that 47% of American adults said the country has suffered much from globalization. That's 47%. Only 33% say it's been aided by it. And how about this? Americans say 10-1 that we need to have a much bigger manufacturing sector. Isn't that what Trump is trying to do? He's fixing the problem that we have said existed forever and ever and ever and ever. As this is going on, it's very interesting that the reconciliation bill is working its way through the House and Senate and has to be done in about a month. It may actually, believe it or not, due to Elon Musk, it may actually get extended to the end of the summer. Now, what is that? I mean, see if I give you a simple explanation of that, right? So, as you know, Congress has the power of the purse, right? They provide the amount of money we can spend. And the American governments, whether Republican or Democrat, and Democrats much more excessively, but Republicans too, always spend it. And then when we spend it, the president, the executive branch, and here are the limitations on it, doesn't have the authorization to use any more money. So that the money that's been authorized runs out. Originally, they thought as early as May, then June, then July, and now September. Now you can almost thank two people for that only, Trump and Musk, because of the massive cutting they've done. So we're not spending as much as we thought we were going to spend, but we're still spending. And there will come a point at which we got to stop buying things, and that's how the government closes down. So the House and the Senate now have two measures to fix that. That isn't the real problem. They want to do more with that than just fix it. The House wants to do it in two sections. The House wants to fix everything, just about everything, except the continuation of the Trump tax cuts. So by fix everything, that means raise the ceiling so you can spend the money, and then spend the money mostly on defense and immigration. Big increases for defense and immigration, and reductions for everything else, some big, some small. And then the House would later on, over the summer and going into the fall, do a second bill to preserve all or most of the Trump tax cuts, which, in fact, given the fact that we've had them now for 4 years, would become tax increases should they go away. And the last thing we need right now is a tax increase. The Senate says, let's get it done all at once. We're not going to have the leverage to do two of them. And there's a lot that the Democrats like in the other package, meaning the package consisting of extending the debt ceiling and spending more on immigration and spending more on defense. There are areas there where we pick up Democrat support, which we don't pick up on the tax measure. So they'd have to sacrifice that just to vote against the tax extension. So that has not as yet been resolved. The Senate Republicans last evening kicked off the voting process on the big, beautiful package: tax cuts, border security, energy production, and of course, budget reconciliation. It's going to go now to the House, who will on Saturday pass a measure. We don't know how similar it'll be to the Senate measure. If it's not, they're going to have to go into reconciliation and conference, because the Senate can only get it passed by majority vote if it is exactly the same measure that comes out of the House. Because the Senate has a rule that almost everything has to be passed by 60 votes to avoid cloture, except for fiscal resolutions. So this has to be done as a fiscal solution. And the House is really in control of that. And the Republicans are, which means let's do the big, beautiful bill, guys. Let's get it over with. Let's not be fighting about tax cuts at Christmas time and stretching it out and making the economy more uncertain. If you are worried about the stock market and you're worried about the uncertainty of tariffs, believe me, the uncertainty of the tax cuts is much more legitimately damaging to our economy than tariffs, which is something we can adjust to and we're probably going to gain from. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee. Welcome back. This is the Rudy Giuliani Show. And there could be the impression, I don't think there is, but there could be the impression that the illegal alien problem is all over. Well, in one way, it is. The border numbers are ridiculous. I knew, and told you that the president would go a long way in solving the border entry. I didn't say that would be easy, and it wasn't, but I said it was very doable. And I have to say, they exceeded my wildest expectations, and my expectations were pretty darn high. When you go down from a max under Biden of 300,000-400,000 a month to 750 or whatever it is, I mean, that's absurd. And I'm sorry, 7,500, which is what it was last month. And that was the lowest month either on record or going back 22, 25 years. There's something you missed there. 70% of the Trump number is sent back, and just the opposite for the Biden number. 70 to 80% were just accepted without much knowledge of whether they were, wonderful, terrific people or child molesters. And it turns out that a large number of them turn out to be child molesters, because when you open a border, you get the worst people. You get the people that know they're not going to be checked. And this is their chance. When you have some degree of vetting at the border, even if it's the vetting that was done under Bush and under Clinton and under Trump first time out, right? You hold some decent control over the border. How about it was never over 1 million until the demented human being got into the White House. And then it went over 1 million every year he was president, and actually reached 3.5 million once. Under Trump in his first year, if it keeps going this way, it may stay under 100,000. Oh, and by the way, remember the lying, completely immoral Democrats saying, oh, you can't do this without legislation. Exactly what legislation has been passed that reduced it by 95%? None. Would you please just not disagree with me and just say with me right now, Democrats are pathological liars. Once again, Democrats are pathological liars. You can't reduce immigration without legislation, except we just did it dramatically without legislation. Just one other example to humor me. Russia colluded with Trump on the 2016 election. Say Shifty Schiff and all the Democrats. Truth? No. The Democrats colluded with Ukraine on the 2016 election. That's the truth. Would you like 10 more lies like that? Now, how is it that people still tolerate them when they've lied to them so many? How many times do you let someone lie to you about something very important? I mean, if you do, you're basically just a sucker, right? And they control you. Let's give you a couple of examples, however, to show you that although the problem of illegal aliens coming in is over for now, the problem of their being here is not over. And they're still here. and they're still creating enormous problems. And we don't know where they are completely. We don't know how many of them are here. We don't know how many terrorists are here. We don't know how many spies are here. And we do know a lot of criminals are here because they're increasing our criminal numbers like 60, 70% in certain cities. And then you look at the individuals as examples, and now there have been far too many to say these are very isolated. How about ICE now deporting a guy whose name is Julian Estrada Garcia? So Julian Estrada Garcia. Let's see if we can find Julian here. He's on our list of notables. We'll see. There you go. There's Julian. There's Julian Estrada Garcia. Now, you're not going to believe this when I tell you that he has been deported to Mexico 40. He's been deported to Mexico 40 times. He should be like 220 years old, right? He's been deported to Mexico 40 times. Now, what kind of an immigration system is that? 40 times. It's impossible to pick up all of his rap sheets because they're all over the country. I mean, we probably have about a third of the crimes that he committed. Drugs, big time, as you would imagine, both using and selling. Fraud, cheating people, taking money from them, theft, driving while intoxicated constantly. I think the only way he could drive was by getting drunk. Hurting people as a result of that. And basically doing a lot of this in Texas, but he got around. And he's been deported 40 times. He's being deported now. He's 48 years old. He's got 25 criminal convictions that we can count. He's a member of the Florencia 13 gang. And as I said, his rap sheet is incomplete because it's in so many different places over such a long period of time. We don't know how big it is. He's now been thrown out Trump style. So let's see if we keep him out now. But 40 times the same guy. This is part of the 113,000 arrests that they've made on the southern border, of which out of 113,000, we only have 13,000 to deal with because 100,000 have been thrown out. Well, we have with us Kara Castronova, who's right here in Washington, because I didn't tell you at the beginning that we're in Washington also. And she's just a few blocks away at the White House. And let's see what she has to say about tomorrow. Well, first of all, what happened today without the president there? And we've got the Day of Rage coming up tomorrow. We've got the golf tournaments, and we have tariff hysteria all in one day at least. Kara?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how are you? I'm so upset that I'm not going to get to see you in D.C. and that you're only a few blocks away from the White House, but it's nice to have you here in D.C. And yes, tomorrow there is a protest here right outside the gates of the White House. I'm looking right now at the fencing that the Secret Service has erected. Last night, there were some construction workers out here putting up fencing very quickly because, they feel it's necessary, I guess, because of this protest that is happening tomorrow that they think might turn possibly into a riot. I'm hoping it's not because I'll be here in D.C., so I want it to be safe for everybody. But tomorrow there's a protest going on, and they're calling it now the hands-off protest. This is the marketing they're trying to do online. Hands off, they're saying to Elon Musk and President Trump. It sounds like Bernie Sanders messaging to me because I sadly follow Bernie on X because I want to keep up to what he's up to because I know he's trying to prep AOC to run for president, and they're trying to, in my opinion, really antagonize and fearmonger their followers into doing protests just like this. And they're saying, really tomorrow, this protest is about, I'm going to read this to you directly from the Hands Off website. Donald Trump and Elon Musk think this country belongs to them. They're taking everything they can get their hands on and daring the world to stop them. On Saturday, April 5th, which is tomorrow, we're taking to the streets nationwide to fight back with a clear message. hands off. So I don't know what you think about that message. To me, I feel like what Donald Trump and President Trump and Elon Musk are trying to do is obviously save taxpayers money. So I don't really comprehend the messaging about hands off, but that is what this big protest, they're saying there will be thousands of people. We'll see about that. I guess tomorrow are here supporting. They're supporting fighting against Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who they're saying hands off, whatever that means.
Where is it going to be located where's their center of operations?
They're starting in the National Mall, from what I understand, and then they're probably marching down Pennsylvania Avenue right here to the White House, which is probably why all this fencing is now up. And they had to cancel some garden tours. I believe Melania Trump had planned for this weekend, just because they're erring on the side of safety and they just want to make sure everybody's safe. So those tours here at the White House were canceled because this protest is coming to town.
Wow. And how about the tariffs? How is that? Is that still the subject of a lot of consternation and debate in the White House?
It is a little bit today. Not a lot of people here because the president is down there in Florida, as you know, at that golf tournament. But you know, today there was a little bit of talk about China retaliating with 34% tariffs, and President Trump putting a Truth Social post out saying that was really unwise of them to do so. You could probably check that out on Truth Social. Really, just President Trump responding to China. Saying this is not wise for you to do this. So that's up on Truth Social. But other than that, I mean, it's just a little bit of the same fear mongering by the left, really trying to get their base afraid that this is going to collapse the United States economy when it's actually really designed to help improve the economy over the long term. So it's been quiet at the White House, especially about the tariff thing. Really what everybody is talking about right now is President Trump being down there at his golf course, Doral, for this big Live tournament, which is a Saudi Arabian backed tournament. And as you know, the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince has become a strong ally of President Trump. He's going to Saudi Arabia in May for some peace talks, and also talking about $1 trillion investment I believe Saudi Arabia will be putting into the United States. So it's important for him to be down there because there will be a lot of diplomats down there in Florida from Saudi Arabia and a lot of movers and shakers to really plan the logistics of this trip and to network and talk to the right people. So it's a really important work day for President Trump down there on the golf course. A lot of deals get made on the golf course. But of course, the mainstream media is spinning it like, oh, President Trump is spending a day playing golf. You know, when so many things are happening around the world, like with these tariffs. But in reality, he's actually doing very important work today.
Well, I think that's such nonsense, and the reality is, so did Dwight Eisenhower, so did John Kennedy, and I think they were pretty good presidents.
Yes.
People didn't criticize them for it, but they criticized Trump for everything he did. And of course, Obama used to play golf all the time. Well, what he thought was golf. If you ever looked at his swing, I wondered whether it was golf or badminton or something. But he played golf all the time.
Well, allegedly, Joe Biden had a 6 handicap. Is that what he said? I don't know much about golf, but I know that he was pretty bad.
You know.
Do you play golf, Mr. Mayor?
Whatever his handicap was, he was lying because he lied about everything.
Right. I can't imagine him even being able to like make connection with a golf ball in a golf club. But are you a golf player?
I am, yes.
And I'm certain you would beat Joe Biden any day in a game, like any day with 2 eyes closed, I think.
Now I would. Because I'm not even sure he would know where the golf ball was.
Right.
He'd be walking around.
But as you know, golf is important. A lot of deals get made on the golf course. I'm sure you know that. I mean, would you agree that a lot of deals get made on a golf course?
Well, every time Biden who spent more time on vacation than at the White House, every time he was on vacation, the left-wing press said how necessary it is for a president to relax. But I guess, Trump, who works like a dog, isn't allowed to relax. And I have played golf with him, and I'm there at the golf course a lot when he plays golf. He works when he plays golf, but what the heck? That's the least of it, right? Well, let's see what happens tomorrow in Washington. I hope it stays peaceful and not violent, because these things have been turning violent.
So do I.
Well, God bless you. And
yeah,
be
that's
careful.
the hope. That's definitely the hope. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope I see you soon.
Be careful. Well, I
Thank you.
mean, this is just ridiculous that I have to tell her to be careful in Washington D.C., right? But I do, and it's ridiculous that people who have Tesla automobiles have to worry about it. We saw Bob the other day and Rob the other day in New York for 2 days, and he has had his Tesla out in a month. And what the heck does Rob have to do with it? Why should his car get attacked? He happens to like an electric car. When he bought it, I told him he was crazy, but he likes an electric car. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillow is only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our spring percale Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to mypillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Come back to the Rudy Giuliani Show, and I know I spend more time than I should talking about New York. And that's because I lived my whole life in New York until last year. Well, I didn't live my whole life in New York. I lived 6 years in Washington, but I was a resident in New York during all that time. And now I'm not. And the picture you see in back of me are people who are demonstrating in favor of one of the most vicious terrorist groups in the history of the world, Hamas. That's a terrorist group that just recently killed a Palestinian innocent kid, one of our own, because he protested against a government that's dictatorial, the Hamas government. So, if you think they just killed Jews and Americans, no, they kill their own as well. They are homicidal maniacs. They're animals. And they are supported by... I don't know if I don't think it's even close to a major portion of our students, but at least the most vociferous ones. And then people like this, we don't know who they are. We don't know that these people with these masks on and the Yasser Arafat derbies there, whatever the hell those things are, which are supposed to be used to keep sand out of your ear. And somehow there's not that much sand in Manhattan. But these jackasses here, they may be paid, they may not be paid, they may be a combination of both. But New York was quite convinced about a month ago, the Adams and particularly the governor, who's got to get it done, that those masks should come off. There was a law when I was mayor, which I enforced, which said if you gather as more than 3 people, or maybe it's 3 people or more, it's either at a 3 or 4 threshold, you can't wear a mask. And the law was passed in the 19th century to deal with the Ku Klux Klan. And I used it to deal with the Ku Klux Klan because they wanted a permit to come to New York and demonstrate. And I said, well, if more than 3 of you come, you better not have masks on or I'll pull them off. And it held the number down so that the number of Ku Klux Klan demonstrators were outnumbered about 10 to 1 by the number of New Yorkers who came to protest them. And I should say I was the mayor, so then you should know everybody was kept safe, not like the cities that have Democrat mayors. And now the left-wing, communist, crooked New York State Assembly is backing off what Hochul promised to get rid of these masks. And they say it could be embarrassing to the people behind the masks, and it could lead to their arrest. Well, that's the idea of it. We want to know who they are if they commit a crime. Many of these turn into something burning down, cops getting beaten. What about all the concern about the so-called cops that were beaten on January 6th? It doesn't exist when one of these freaks does it? You see the battles in the street. with the cops. And you see the buildings burning. You don't see that with any of the right-wing people who protest. You don't see buildings burning down. If you saw fighting with the police on January 6th, I mean, that was an exception to years and years of protest that had no such thing. I was at a march. I'm in Washington right now at the Willard Hotel, where I spent much of my time in the war room representing President Trump, which was construed by the lying Democrats who are all over this town as a war room to create an insurrection. Well, I'd never heard of an insurrection. I would never be part of an insurrection. I am more law-abiding than any Democrat you ever met. And what I was here doing was representing my client and trying to prove what I knew. But a lot of the crooked establishment was stopping us from doing, which is that the election was stolen. And I was here right up until the very end doing that. In fact, on the day of January 6th, I was on the 4th floor of this building in a suite of offices that we had. And I was on the phone still trying to collect letters asking the vice president to give us 5 or 6 more days to count the votes. And I had some that were backed up by multiple demonstrations of evidence that nobody ever took a look at. And I didn't know about the things that happened on January 6th until I saw the Sullivan tape, which showed me quite clearly that most of those people didn't commit any crime at all, and that the shooting of I'll show you this here. Can you see, Ashley? I wear it until justice is done. Of Ashley Babbitt was a cold-blooded murder. And you know I've demonstrated that to you several times, and I'm more than happy to do it again. So these protesters, I worry about them. But the fact that the governor has now double-crossed New Yorkers, and this mask law is no longer going to take place, and these people are going to be able to walk around with those masks on. Now, let's say one of them throws a rock. Do you know what my rule was on demonstrations and why I had no riot? I took over a city that had had massive riots, including a pogrom, a bunch of black people in Crown Heights going out trying to kill Jewish people. The first pogrom in the history of America. And then I had a big riot in Washington Heights that closed it down for 4 days. And I said, we're not going to have any riots. They're within my control. That's why I have such a big police department. And I told people that right from the beginning, when I was running, when I was mayor-elect, and when I was mayor. I said, I'm going to look at it differently. My predecessor, similar to the Democrat idiots of today, believed in a cooling off period. So if a riot started, you let them break a few buildings and smash a few cars, and don't get involved with too much police action right away. It'll make it worse. Then a report was done for the Governor Cuomo, the father of Andrew Cuomo, that said that was the thing that caused the terrible riot, the cooling off period, that it was one of the dumbest, stupidest, and most irresponsible things that he had ever heard of in law enforcement. It wasn't one of, it was the dumbest, most irresponsible and reckless things in law enforcement. I said, I just have a different rule. That is, the first person to break the law gets arrested. It can be a big law, a little law, or a really tiny law, but you're getting arrested. And gee, it worked. I had no riots. So one of these ladies here threw a rock. See, I want to see her face. I'd search her down and arrest her, or I'd arrest her right on the spot. Now, I'm telling you, if these people started throwing rocks and you arrested the first one, they'd stop throwing rocks. At least when I put them in jail, they didn't like going to jail because I kept them there. I didn't have an anti-American hater like Bragg as a DA, supported by Soros, who would let them free. But we decided way back over 100 years ago that you shouldn't be able to walk around protesting with a mask on unless you have a nefarious purpose for it. And if it worked with the Ku Klux Klan, it works with them. These people are supporting terrorist, multiple murderers. That's who they're supporting, whether they are maliciously doing it or they're, stupid as hell. It doesn't really matter because they create support for them, and they continue to do the horrible things that they do in Gaza, which now includes killing their own people, because their own people, or whatever is left of them, want to be free of them. And they want to continue to maintain their position of power and getting great money, so they kill their own people. Hamas is now saying that it wants a ceasefire. Well, they can't get a ceasefire as long as there's still Hamas around. Bibi Netanyahu made a promise to his people that the war is over when they eliminate Hamas. I think you should keep that promise. The way Churchill made the promise of unconditional, complete victory over the Nazis. So let's see what happens this weekend with these protests, and let's see if Ukraine and Russia, that both seem to be trying to weasel out of a peace deal for their own reasons. Zelensky has made and unmade the mineral deal about 5 times. And Putin tells us how interested he is in peace and continues to kill people, which is gives Trump 2 real difficult characters to deal with, but one much worse than the other, Putin, without any doubt. But they both have to be dealt with, because they both have to agree if you're going to stop the killing. And it seems like the only one interested in the safety of the Ukrainian and the Russian people is Donald Trump and his cohorts. Even Eastern Europe doesn't seem to give a damn. Maybe it's all that money that's flowing in that keeps them wanting to do it the way Arafat never wanted to make peace. I mean, Zelensky, after all, is the product of a very, very dishonest, organized criminal who made his career, and one of the critical, crooked oligarchs that helped to take money from the mouths of the Ukrainian people. So we're not talking about like real patriots there. We're talking about patriots who become multimillionaires off the suffering of their people. So it's going to be tough, but I think the president's going to get there because he's so determined. Well, now you have a great weekend. We'll be available if anything goes wrong. We'll be here in D.C. and we'll be back in Florida, and we'll be all over. And if anything important to report, we'll be on. And until then, you pray for all of these people. The ones in particular we focus on are the ones with the greatest risk in Ukraine, and the people in Israel, and the people in Iran. And the people in Iran, so that they can have freedom. And we quickly get rid of the Ayatollah's government and replace it with a democratic, free, and fair government. And you pray for us in America with all this violence going on, that it stays under control. And of course, come back next week, 7 o'clock, and on the Rudy Giuliani Show, 8 o'clock on America's Mayor Live. God bless America.